All right, thanks for joining. We're back. We are back. And we're going to dig right into it. This thought has been coming to us, myself in particular, for a long time, a very long time. What it has to do with is who actually are the real Jews that Christ talked about. He said, because in John 4:22, he stated succinctly that salvation to the woman at the well of Sychar, salvation is of the Jews. And he later went on to detail that and to qualify and to quantify it very cryptically, unless you know how to decipher the meaning. In other words, it's not hard. It's not hard. Just remember the dynasties: Egypt, Assyria, Babylon. Those are three. Egypt, Assyria, Babylon. Persia, Greece. That's five. And the sixth one is Rome. We're going to tie that into the beast with the seven heads. And we'll match up a lot of that parallelism that's found all throughout scriptures. It's really found all throughout. And it has to do with metaphor. Metaphor is the biblical language that we need to learn. It's the eyes to see and the ears to hear. And if you don't have that language intact, if you're a linear literalist, if you go by solely the chronology, the succession of chronology and or the literalism of said linear literalism, you're not going to understand it. You're not going to have the eyes to see or the ears to hear. So when we go into, let's kind of jog on over to John again 4:22, and then we'll go over then we'll go over later on, and we'll show you that how in Romans 2:28 and 29, who is a Jew? And it's one that has been circumcised of the heart, not the physical aspect of it. And then we'll also back that up with Matthew 26:28 about the blood of the sacrifice, the propitiation for all sins, the ratification, the new covenant. Albeit the fact that it says the New Testament. Testament, we said this before many times. Testament and covenant, both those words are synonymous. They're exactly the same. One defines the other and vice versa. They're interchangeable. They mean the same thing. And how that plays into your identity. This is all about your identity that we're trying to drive home. Because how can the Lord say, well, in John 4:22, that salvation is of the Jews, when to this very day they are against, in place of, or diminishing the finished work of Jesus Christ on the cross? How can that be? It would be like if I was in the military, and if I had a general, and my general answered to the 5-star commander, the Armed Forces commander, let's just say, the 5-star. We don't have too many 5-stars. The last couple we had was Bradley and Eisenhower, if I remember right. Could be a couple more, I forget offhand. But anyway, my commanding general would not come out and say, well, salvation is of the Jews. But even though I'm going to be your leader and make the ultimate sacrifice, and even though those people over there will diminish my finished work on the cross and go against my concepts, my precepts, my institutionalized, doctrinally perfect words, even though they're going to do that, because I was the perfect sacrifice, not only that of Daniel 9:24-27, but also because what Christ did was he was the Word made flesh. That's John 1:1. And that Word was God. That became flesh, dwelt among us, and all of that good stuff, all of those good things. So we need to understand when Christ said to the woman at the well of Sychar that salvation is of the Jews, then we need to expand on that and understand who the real Jews are. And this is keeping in light of fact that there were also two bad synagogues of the 7 churches. Does anybody remember what they were? Who they were, I should say. Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamos, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, and Laodicea. The second to the last church. Assemblies, called out ecclesia assemblies, Matthew 16:18, verbiage thereof and therefore. So it was Ephesus, Smyrna, it was Smyrna that had the synagogue of Satan, and Philadelphia that had the church or the synagogue of Satan. Well, it was only made for, that was only, all those things and all the things that Christ fulfilled was made and fulfilled and done in accordance with the Jewish nation. So not only are you calling Christ a liar because he said salvation is of the Jews, because they don't believe anything about Jesus Christ. And Paul even drove the point home, which was who was a true Jew, again in Romans 2:28-29. But then, we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here, but then again, what does it say? Matter of fact, let's go there. We'll kind of work backwards on this a little bit. Do it from a new approach. Let's go to 1 John 2, verse 2. Now listen closely. And he is the propitiation for our sins. Well, this gets better. And not for our sins only, but also for the sins of the whole world. Oh, this is beautiful. This perfectly ties in to what we're already talking about. Because since Christ is the propitiation for our sins, and since not only for our sins only, but also for the sins of the whole world. So then we got to look back, and we got to look from a fresh view what Christ told the woman at the well sidecar, where he says, yeah, 5 husbands, and the one you're with now, you're not even married to. Again, this falls in line. If you follow the dynastical support for this, that is also represented in a lot of different places, especially in Daniel 2 and 7, for example, and also 8. They all complement each other. Then you go over to Revelation chapter 13, and it talks about the beast that rises up out of the sea, looking like a beast with 7 heads, 10 crowns, and 10 horns and 10 crowns upon the horns. Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Persia, Greece, that's 5, and Rome is 6. You've had 5 husbands, and the one you're with now is not your husband. So Christ is laying the groundwork for what he's told that woman, that salvation is of the Jews. Now, once we look further at that statement, and we understand that Christ, when he told Nicodemus, and this also confirms and runs in accordance with 1 John 2:2, and he is the propitiation for our sins, and not for ours only, but also for the sins of the whole world, then that baton, if you will, of genealogy, that's a great way to put it, we like that, it was passed. And Jesus Christ was the mediator, the final propitiation, not the Antichrist in the first 3.5 years of Daniel's last 70th week. No. Don't go there, because you're giving the things of Christ over and attributing them to your snake oil salesman, physical, anthropomorphized Antichrist. Not a good thing. Not a good thing to do. Because Christ took that physicality of the old institution, construction, composition, construct of the old embodiment of the tribes and converted them over into the new spiritual Jews. That, again, the proof text on that, and I'll give you a couple more after that. You know what I'm going to say. We're going to go over to Romans and quote those again. Romans, well, a lot of it's in Romans, or Galatians for that matter. We like 3:16, but that's different. Anyway, Romans 2:28-29. Who's a real Jew? Is one circumcised in the heart and of the Spirit. Because we all know those who worship God must do so in spirit and in truth. Well, we love Jesus. Okay, that's fine, great, fantastic. But are you doing it by pertaining to the right doctrine? That's the other half of the equation. Because we're talking about your inheritance. We're talking about your identity. It's your identity. If you choose to accept it, fantastic. If you don't, okay, you're on your own. Mileage may vary. Your mileage may vary. And he is the propitiation for our sins, one more time. And not for ours only, but also for the sins of the whole world. Now let's backtrack a little. Let's go to Matthew 26:28. That is a beautiful verse. Let's go there. That is a great verse as well. This ties everything that we've said up to this point in this video. Ties it right in. For, this is Matthew again, 26:28. For this is my blood of the New Testament. Again, what we said before applies. Exactly templated here. Testament and covenant are interchangeable. They're one and the same. They mean one and the same. Which is shed for many for the remission of sins. We got to look up that word remission. This is great too. I went over this one day. Freedom, figuratively, pardon, deliverance, forgiveness, liberty, remission. Kind of tying it up. Release from bondage or imprisonment. Forgiveness of pardon of sins, letting them go as they had never been committed. Remission of the penalty, like all null and void. There you go. So you've got all of these indicators that prove who the new Israel is. And that's a great thing. That's a great thing. Because when you put all of those things together, they spell out marvelously, perfectly, succinctly what it means for you to be part of that new Israel. Because it was for many. It was for many, just like it says. It was done for many. And you're part of that many. And you can be a spiritual Jew. Just get yourself in a position to be supernaturally chosen, blessed, and favored. Cry out to God. Let him know, hey, I want to make that next step. I want to assume my identity, my spiritual inheritance. It's like going to the city hall and saying, you know, I was adopted by Jesus Christ. And he paid my sin baggage. And I want to be part of that new spiritual Israel, of the chosen, the favored, and the blessed. And that's what we got to look forward to, really. That's really what we got to look forward to. Because it's all about spiritual identity. You know, but you're going to, unfortunately, most people will diminish the facts in order to retain their relationship. They will diminish the facts in order to retain the relationship. And if they don't know, unfortunately, if they don't know how to give a good account of their faith in these, no pun intended, matters of faith, they're just going to go along to get along. Strength in numbers. We've decided groupthink mentality, groupthink. What do you think? How do you feel? What's your opinion? And all of that. But we're just giving you the raw date on it. And if, you can do with it what you want. You will anyway. You know you will. We know that you know that. We know that you know that you will at the end of the day. But that chosen, blessed, and favored designation is there for you because it was Israel, the physicality of Israel being transferred over, having passed over, having been born again, like Christ told Nicodemus, from the old physical Israel into the reborn spiritual Israel. You are a spiritual Jew. We rest our case right there. But it depends on the person, Most people will say, well, it sounds like this, what you said sounds great. Go check it out. Go check out the references we just gave you. But then you're going to come back. I don't know. I'm going to start looking for ways that I can shoot that down because, my 7-year dispensational rapture preacher says that you got to divide up. Oh really? We just got done reading. We'll read it. We'll close it out right now, but we'll read it again. We will read it again. This has ramifications that go way past the institutionality of where you're at now. Oh yeah. Read it again. Matthew 26:28. For this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many. Now, where do we remember that for many from? Could it be Daniel 9:24-27? Yup. But the 7-year pre-trib, dispensational, rapture, entertainment people will say, oh no, that was only made with the Jews. But it doesn't say that. It says with many. It is double confirmed here, second witness, by the Lord himself. For this is my blood of the New Testament, the new covenant, which is a further ratification, if you want to get legal, technical about it. It was a succinct, perfect ratification of the Old Testament, the Old Covenant, which is shed for many. In his blood, again, to reiterate, for the what? For the remission of sins. For the remission of sins. Don't you think that is wonderful news? Because if you don't, we are here to tell you that is wonderful news. Act upon it. Do something about it. We could talk to you for hours. We'll leave it there. And we'll get back here real soon with you. We're just going to build a case and continue to keep building it and building it and building it because people are missing out. Won't even go there. Delay that, whatever. We'll leave it there. If you're renting, stay rented, please, and go out there and try to influence in a very kind, loving, and nice way. I give you the tough love. Sorry about that, but it's just the way I am, and we're just trying to get the job done. Trying to be as kind and loving as we can, but, if people don't like what we say, then they're going to attack me as a person because I'm big and ugly and they don't like me. Okay, fine. But it's what's being said. You're going to do what you want to do at the end of the day. But the offer's there. The offer's there. If you want to be part of that chosen election, that chosen, blessed, favored election, make your calling and election sure, then it's there for you between you and God. Just go to the Lord and tell him you want to take a walk out in the wilderness and join the other few of us that are already out there, and we'll welcome you with open arms. Love you guys. We'll talk soon.